Hey, Facebook friends, I wanted to share something with you that just really deeply touched me. And a few days ago, I shared in my feed this video that was done, and I want to make sure I get this name right, by Hans Frames. And he was part of a group that's called Grans United. And they were basically trying to do a statement from Germans to America saying, we have been the country that has faced exactly what you're facing now. We see the kind of stuff that your nation is promoting. We see the kind of statements that your president is making. We're seeing all the propaganda that you're under. And now is the time that you have to turn this around, or you will be a fascist nation. This is the moment that you have to save your democracy. Please learn from our mistakes. Please know that as Germans, we've seen this before. And you're going to repeat history if you don't turn it around now. And then they also give us a lot of encouragement by saying that we have more people protesting against the direction that Trump and MAGA and Stephen Miller and Stephen Bannon, all these people are trying to take us, down, and the horrible things that are happening across our nation. Families torn apart, people kept in negative temperatures without any heat, people given slop grime for food, the water rations being done out of a toilet or on the floor for people to suck up, people being put in areas that are meant to hold like 18 people and they're cramming 50 in. I mean, all these horrible things that we're hearing. The fact that, all the medical care has stopped being delivered and is being denied since October. The fact that there's an actual policy saying that they will not reunite families together. I mean, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And the horrifying videos that we've seen, of course, with ICE, attacking people on the streets, people that are like, doing things that like Nerdy, he was is an incredible musician, advocate for his community, beautiful songs that he's done with the symphony up there, and just talking about unifying people, lifting each other up. Wonderful, beautiful human being walking away, with his arms outstretched, obviously as peaceful as it gets, with no weapon, being shot in the back with rubber bullets and beaten by ICE agents. Thank God he survived. But, the image of a black man being thrown in the back of a pickup with a bunch of armed white men is something that unfortunately is way too recent in American history. And so we have all this stuff, we have people going to, Little Earth, which is a reservation. A lot of people don't realize this, but there are reservations located in the middle of cities because cities grew around them. So, Little Earth, ICE agents have been going 360 degrees around that reservation because, there are brown people in there, and speaking of another brown, they've taken Native Americans and they won't return them to the tribe unless the tribe agrees to enter into some kind of formal agreement with ICE. I mean, that's like blackmail. That's actual blackmail. There's just so much insanity going on in our country, and it's heartbreaking. And I keep thinking about what my father told me a long time ago. And of course, he was from the greatest generation, World War II. Joshua and I were with him when we were, at a dance class thing, and it was, he loved swing dancing. So I invited my dad to join us because that's what they were doing that night. And, in walks a man that my father thought had been killed, and the man thought my dad had been killed. They had gone to high school together, and both of them had lost decades of being in touch with each other because they had gone to their high school reunions and were told all the other men had died. They were the last ones alive. And so neither of them wanted to go back to the reunions because it was depressing. And so all these years, they never found out that the other was still alive. And to witness these two men, grown, powerful men, break down, crying. I mean, the tears were flooding, just grabbing onto each other in the middle of that dance floor. I will never forget that. So, this, World War II is not that far away. And, in hearing my father tell me, Marianne, fascism will come to America again. And when it does, it will be the American flag wrapped around a cross. Recognize it. Know what it is. And you fight it. You fight it with everything you've got. If you got to die for it, it is worth it. Speak out. Do not cower. And what he didn't say, but what I feel deep in my heart, was basically, this is how you honor his generation. And, and this is how I honor my grandparents, the stories of them, with the crosses in their yard, it's just the clan groups of 40 to 60 people, threatening them. And the fact that my family went through that my grandparents chose to do that. And, how many people would allow a threat to their children? At the time they had 6 children, only 3 lived to adulthood, and they were willing to sacrifice themselves and their children's lives to do the right thing. I don't know how many parents would do that, but my grandparents did that. And every day that I'm here in the United States, I am terrified. I am freaking terrified. I don't go take my trash out without my passport in my pocket. I don't take a walk without my passport in my pocket. I don't go to the grocery store without my passport in my pocket. I don't fill up the car with gas without my passport in my pocket. All the things you think about doing, oh, let me go get my hair done. Oh, let me go, go get some tampons, Walgreens. Oh, let me go pick up a head of lettuce. Okay, do I have my wallet? Do I have my driver's license? Do I have like the money I need to go out? Oh, it's cold, a jacket. Oh, make sure you got your passport. I mean, and seeing the videos of horrifying videos of people that look like me with my melanin, my coloring, and how, they're terrified because, they're shouting and screaming, I'm legal, I'm a citizen, I have my papers. And hearing ICE agents say again and again, I don't care. I don't care. Hearing how people, where it's cold, if the ICE officers find out they're citizens, what they've been doing, supposedly they've been dumping them in the forest. We're talking about freezing temperatures. So if they can't book you, they just dump you, let you find your own way back, and if you're in the urban area where it's warmer, they've just been dumping the citizens in other places. I've seen this teenage boy crying, because he was terrified and beaten up by these ICE agents and they found out he was a citizen, so they dumped him somewhere in some random parking lot, And I've read stories. I mean, this gay couple, the guy did everything right, made paid taxes, filled out forms, did all right. And after 2 years of marriage, was told to come in, he was going to become a citizen. Instead, ICE took him. And you know what else they took? They took his wedding ring. Who else used to take wedding rings? Nazis. Why the hell are we taking people's jewelry? Hearing this, the things I've been hearing more recently, that new laws were passed that said that an ICE officer comes into your house and you don't declare more than $10,000 worth of stuff in your house. Now, that may sound like a lot of money, but add this up, add a TV, add every kind of electronic equipment that you have, add your jewelry, add, all this stuff up. Even the most struggling family could easily end up having more than $10,000 worth of stuff in their house without it necessarily being opulent, because, you buy a refrigerator, you buy an oven. So if you don't declare every item that you have over $10,000, they now say the ICE agent can walk in and claim it. They can just take it. So, what we're looking at is something really, really scary. And I do feel when people say we need to stop comparing this to SS, Nazis, we need to look at our own history with the slave patrols. We need to look at our own history with what we did to Native Americans. And yes, believe me, I understand, what we did with the Trail of Tears, for example. A lot of people don't know that Native Americans basically owned most of the state of Georgia. And, when we had agreements, we actually had agreements, treaties that would be their state. But then people didn't like the fact that, many of them became Christian. Oh, they became wealthy. Oh, they actually ended up building really nice plantation homes. Oh, wow. And they really didn't like it that when they got slaves, they invited their slaves in to sit at their tables, because the Native Americans had a tradition of when you captured an opposing tribe, you could make them slaves, but the way you treated those slaves was supposed to be as part of your family, literally. So, when they got slaves, they ended up basically eating side by side, so this was a whole different thing that a lot of white Americans just could not stand. So they invaded and they took the homes and they showed up and said, hey, guess what? You're leaving. Everything that you think is yours in this house is now ours. And they took it and they made them walk, and many died, and the Trail of Tears. So, we've seen this kind of stuff before. This is our history. And that's why in Mein Kampf, Hitler says that he was basing the treatment of, the the Jews, the Poles, the all the different groups that he went against. He was basing it on America's treatment of Native Americans. So let me say that again. So the SS officers, Germany, the Nazis, in Hitler's own words, based their treatment of everybody they hurt in the Holocaust on how the United States handled Native Americans. So yes, people should look at our own history. And of course, it is like slave patrols. What we are doing with African Americans throughout our history, the way they've been treated, it's very similar to slave patrols. So, all of this comes together, yes. But I think that we should not dismiss what our German friends are saying. And, they're saying you got to look at the larger picture here, because while, yes, it is like slave patrols, while, yes, it is like the way we treat Native Americans, guess what? It's also very much following a recipe for propaganda, a recipe for, from the music. I shared that earlier with you in a prior video, the kind of song that they were using, the fact that the big white supremacist rallying song, the quote from it was used by a Homeland Security on their own page. None of this is, of course, America First being the American Nazi Party slogan, March with the Ku Klux Klan, back in the 1930s. I've talked about all this stuff with you guys before, the history of it. So when we hear our German friends saying, America, wake up, pay attention. We have seen this before. But guess what? You are at an amazing place, an opportunity where you can turn this around. We need to pay attention. And so that's why I really wanted to bring attention to, if I can find this here, it's a group, it's called Emotional Support European, and he reached out to a group called Grans United. And there's a man by the name of Hans Frames, and he ends up putting together a letter, and I will put the link down below, in which he is just saying, I want you and United States citizens to hear me. You are at a place where you must turn this around. You absolutely have no choice but to turn this around if democracy is to be saved. And the vision America has had is something sacred for the world to strive to live up to. And if you, as an example of it, don't, what it means for the world is horrendous. But you have a chance. And he says the fact that we have had so many people turn out and fight for it, so much more than they had opposing Hitler, is an incredible opportunity. But most of all, what I wanted to say is I wanted to do a huge shout out to some incredible people that said, one is mellamaface4. She wrote, because I comment on this, she said, as a non-Native American, I apologize for my ancestors' actions against your Marion Thompson-Frenk's people and to all those who were here long before the colonizers. If I could take it all back, I would. And then there's another one that just really got me. And it's by LukeWarm612. He said, as a white America, I proudly embrace you as my sister. And I just want to say to those two people in particular, thank you. That really, really touched me, because going about and seeing the kind of vile rhetoric that people are celebrating, it's painful and it's terrifying. I wake up in the middle of the night with my heart racing with nightmares about ICE. And that's something being shared by everybody. We're getting freaking terrified, and that's what they want. And so it's an act of rebellion to speak out like I'm doing right here, and to hear white brothers and sisters say, hey, I recognize you. I'm sorry for this. I don't stand for this. I stand with you. You are my sister. And recognize that I'm a fellow citizen, and most of all, that I'm a fellow human being. That means the world to me. So this is me saying thanks to all of you, and to the Germans who were trying to raise awareness. Thank you. So to everybody out there that is standing up right now, the only way we save our democracy is we are not silent and we recognize the value of our voice. So please keep speaking out. And for those of you that have made the point to say you stand with me, and those who look like me with my brown melanin, thank you.
Dear American citizens, we have an urgent message for all Americans. We are observing a democracy in grave jeopardy, with great risk to the freedoms that Americans hold so dear. We know because we've been there. and we encourage and support peaceful and civil protests and action to defend and save those freedoms. We are a German non-governmental civil society network of independent organizations and private individuals. One of our members is a working group of Omas gegen Rechts, Grannies Against the Far Right, who, after being founded in Vienna, Austria in 2017, have been active in Germany since 2018. The Omas are recognized as one of the most influential civil society women's initiatives in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, campaigning against right-wing populism and for democracy. The German grannies against the far right are mostly women who grew up in post-war Germany. Some of them experienced the Second World War themselves. In this network, we have joined forces to take a stand against right-wing extremist ideologies and fascism. Given Germany's history, we see this as our collective duty, especially to our children and grandchildren. We know from our own experience how fascism can destroy a country, its freedom, and its society. And it is our responsibility to leave our descendants and future generations a world in which there is no place for dictatorship, hatred, and fear. World War II destroyed Europe and killed millions of people. Promises of greatness and superiority led our nation into a war of annihilation against our neighbors. These promises duped people into following its egregious and inhumane ideology about unworthy life. It has taken generations to try to heal these wounds, and they remain. That is why after the Second World War, Germany took an oath on which our constitution is based. Never again will we allow ourselves to be ruled by fascism. Without the United States, the Allied forces would not have succeeded in liberating Germany from the terror of Nazism. We remain profoundly grateful for this. Without your country, Germany would not have democracy today. This connects our two countries. And it is the reason we appeal to you so urgently today to warn all Americans, your democracy is in danger. When we look at today's America, we see a deeply divided nation. We no longer see the country that helped liberate us a mere 80 years ago. What we see today leaves us profoundly shaken. Make America Great Again is a right-wing populist slogan. And slogans like these justify fascism. We know because we have seen this before. We understand how fascism grows and how it manipulates citizens with false promises that exploit their fears and prejudices. We know because in our country too, people longed for a strong leader and believed his promises. MAGA leaders are quickly destroying American democracy, American society, and increasingly the American economy, while enriching themselves in the process. It was no different here in 1933. At first, some people believed they were benefiting from Hitler's policies, but that changed quickly. The fascists had already divided people into categories and cruelly judged their worth and their lives. Once Hitler became Imperial Chancellor in January 1933, it took the Nazis only 2 months to completely destroy Weimar democracy. Watching your federal government occupy cities and target migrants is eerily familiar. The rapid destruction of the rule of law, suppression of speech, including the press, universities, science and basic right of assembly, imperialist fantasies about conquering other countries, even allies, information control and centralized propaganda, blatant corruption at the highest level, violent expulsion of people under the guise of illegal migration, and an exodus of the brightest minds to other countries where they can freely do their work. MAGA cannot offer a future to the American dream. Worse, the crisis of your democracy is directly linked to our future and indeed that of the world. But there is hope. We are seeing peaceful resistance to this neo-fascism. Most recently, as a response to ISIS violence in Minneapolis and in other cities. The No Kings movement has mobilized millions of protesters. These demonstrations are larger than anything that was seen in Germany after 1933. The time to act is now. History has taught us that all it takes for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing. We believe in the goodness of the American people. We know that there are millions of citizens on both sides of the political spectrum who are deeply concerned about the path their country is on, including those who thought their vote would make America great. Many hope for a better future, but all they've gotten are lies. The time is now for the citizens of America to stand up to fascism and defend your democracy, just as you did for Germany and the world. You still have a chance what our ancestors failed to do. Know that you are not alone. We are facing similar dangers here in Germany and Europe. But there is many good people standing up for each other, for democracy, human rights, and a positive shared future. Never again is now.